Good morning and welcome to the Hobby Breakfast Show, kicking off your morning with Wargaming Chat.
That's not true.
Like once a month in the afternoon. Joining me today is OT.
Hi everyone, good morning.
I was going to quickly cough. And I'm Onod. There we go. And there'll be no cough in the edit, probably. No mayor. R.I.P. Fuck. That was dark. Mayor is unavailable. Trademark. There we go. That's all the explanation they're getting. This is a car crash and intro. Even by our low standards, this is poor. I'm tempted to restart, but I won't. What are we talking about today, OT?
We're talking about how we would fix Eagle. No. We're talking about when games are not fun, and if that's to do with balance, or if it's to do with models being designed in a way that is inherently a negative play experience.
Negative play experience. That is
nippy.
A buzzword sort of thing that a marketing team came up with there, isn't it? Yeah. So I guess the premise, if we were to break that down, is it okay for a game to result in players losing if they have fun? And is it okay for a game to not have all potential armies, or whatever the game calls them, have an equal chance of winning? Might you, for example, have a game where an army only has a 20% win rate, and is that okay? And is that tied to fun, basically? I think it's broadly where we're going to be going. Should we set out some stances?
Strongly left wing.
Anti-nuclear war. I think that my broad thoughts are, I think it is okay to have a game where you may lose more often depending on which army you take, as long as the gameplay experience in losing is an enjoyable one. And I think that's the thing which we get mixed up, and I think that's the premise in the video, right? That people assume that you always have to have an equal opportunity of victory for a game to be fun as well as balanced. I'm not sure that it's possible to balance a game with so many factions and such a convoluted rule set, especially when you're using something like a measuring tape and a 6-sided dice. I don't think that you can achieve balance. I think you can have a meta. I think that you can have balance in the sense that some of the lists might have an equal opportunity of winning. I don't think you can achieve it for, what does Middle-Earth now have? Is it like 90 lists?
It's close to 100, isn't it? I think it might even be over that.
It's not possible. And anyone who thinks that this new army list design makes balance better, I just strongly disagree. I just don't think that by increasing the amount of lists and increasing the amount of special rules, that's possible. Even if you're reducing unit choice and allies and all that sort of thing, I just think it's too much to balance, quote unquote. So that's kind of where I'm coming at this from. Are you similar, or are you taking a slightly different stance? I hope you are taking a different stance, otherwise it's going to be a very boring video.
I think I come at it from a slightly different angle. I think a big thing I've always had is like players having agency over like a game. And I think I've never been super fussed about balance necessarily. Like, I think unless you're playing chess, you're not going to have a 50-50 chance of winning. Like, I just don't think it's possible, unless I guess you're in an exact mirror match, in which case maybe. But I think the times I have not enjoyed MESBG the most are when I am playing lists either that I'm controlling or my opponent's controlling that are designed to not be interactive. So I've memed on like Riv Knights quite a few times, and like, so what a mistake that was. But like,
that's not even an especially egregious example, really.
No. But I mean, we'll talk more about Eagles later. But I think that like rules or models that are designed to not allow your opponent to interact with them, even if maybe they've not built their army in the best way, don't feel like a positive experience.
Yeah. All right. Let's start wading into this turd fest then. There's a hopefully an image that viewers now conjuring in their mind. Should we start off with the idea of fun and work our way back?
Yeah. What is fun? When genuinely, this is such a good question. Like, when is MESBG fun? Like, what are the criteria? Because no channel I've ever seen in the MESBG sphere talks about this. Like, they don't talk about whether or not a new special rule or something that's been brought in makes the game fun. They just talk about how it impacts the meta or how it impacts the list it's taken in.
People talk about theme, don't they? I think that there's a assumption that
gives a fuck about theme.
I think there's an assumption amongst a substantial amount of the people who play tournament SBG that theme equals fun. I think that they think if my list is a thematic list, it will therefore be a fun one. That's obviously not true. You could have an incredibly unthematic list, which is incredibly fun to play or play against. You can have a really thematic list that definitely could have existed in Tolkien's world, which is a massive ball ache to play. Fun then.
All lists are thematic now, right?
Well, yes.
Is the game more fun? I don't know.
Well, I wouldn't know because I haven't played this edition. But I am qualified to talk about it online because fuck you. So overqualified, I agree. Yeah, the fact that I have a brain makes me overqualified. So,
yeah,
we're really fucking gunning in, aren't we? We're just trying to collapse the channel. It's over, guys. I've lost my train of thought. Fun was what I was thinking about. Have you noticed how people claim that tournaments are fun, and then when you're there, no one's having fun? Like, this is something that I've really distinctly noticed going to tournaments, wargaming tournaments. When you get to the end of a wargaming tournament, have a look around the room. How many people are smiling? Because when I get to the end, it's like everyone is like shattered.
Yeah. And
exhausted. A load of people have left early. Like quite a lot of people have not bothered staying for the end because they're either salty or they've got like public transport. Fair enough. And it's like everyone talks about it as being like, oh, I had such a great time. And I'm like, it doesn't feel like it when you're in the moment. Now, I think that people can have an enjoyment, a satisfaction, like a sense of catharsis from playing a game, which doesn't necessarily mean that they have to be ecstatically fun. Like I'm the first person to say that I think when I'm playing a game, I'm not one of those like 40k players who's come dressed as an orc and obnoxiously shouts "wah" in your face every 5 seconds. Like I'm just never going to be that person. And I don't want to be.
Yeah.
And that's both fine and also probably actually advisable. But like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you find the same in Legion tournament? Like, is everyone just shattered and doesn't really seem to be quote unquote having fun in a traditional way at the end?
I think people in the Legion sphere. Oh no, I'm going to back down from that one. That was going to be a stretch. I think in my experience at least, people who play Legion have a better idea of where they stand in kind of the competitive pecking order than compared to when I played MESBG. So there's less like people who are disappointed, if that makes sense. And I think in a tournament, if you are going there with the ambition of winning every game, you are only setting yourself up for disappointment. And I think like there have definitely been times where I remember we went to a tournament in London where we thought we'd found like all these insane combos and we were going to roll everyone, and then we just came up against like metalists the entire day, got crushed, and just kind of felt a bit miserable at the end.
And I had never practiced my list, and that really showed.
Yeah, and so like I think it's very easy to kind of imagine that you're going to go on and have great, but only one person's actually going to win all their games. So I don't know. I think at any tournament there will be people who are disappointed, but yeah, I do understand what you mean by kind of reaching the end. It kind of feels like you've like done a job or a chore or something sometimes after that many games because you're just so drained. And
so if you're a tournament player, is fun, quote unquote, a cathartic experience as opposed to one which you feel joy over? Is it like the satisfaction of I was aiming to go 2-1 and I went 2-1? Like, is that fun in that specific situation?
I think if you look purely at like gaining joy from the results, I think that's like one way of doing it. I think also there are some people who do enjoy the interactions like within that, and I think that's maybe a more like consistent and healthy way to enjoy them, because
I think social side of things,
yeah, because I think one of my favorite things about tabletop gaming is that if you are genuinely passionate about the game and you play with someone who's genuinely passionate about the game, then you actually have a shared interest. If you're playing with someone who's purely playing to win and isn't actually that into the game, it can just feel a bit awkward if you're getting like really into the theme and enthusiastic and they're just like pre-measuring everything and like ultra tryharding. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but like I think that difference can sometimes feel a bit like embarrassing. And when like it's a very strange social interaction, right? Because it's someone you're going to talk to and have quite a like intense shared experience with for like 2 or 3 hours and then probably never see again in your life. So it is just a weird concept, and if in that time you don't quite match up with that person in terms of the energy, then it can just feel a bit like awkward, and then it becomes a lot more draining, I think.
Yeah. Now, outside of a tournament competitive thing, I think I could define having fun with MESBG a lot easier.
Yeah.
Like when I think of like having fun with MESBG, I think of like that scenario where Farmer Maggot's dogs kept getting sniped.
Yep.
And then we rolled with it, and then we said like, oh, on a 6 the donkey alerts them instead. We rolled a 6, and like we had all of the like because it was like us, and we're like friends outside of playing wargaming. Citation needed. Like, but you know what I mean? Like because it's like playing a game is more like an excuse for us to hang out more than anything else.
Yeah.
So it's like we were like joking about like, and then it became a thing, didn't it? Where it was like the dog killing squad or whatever it was we called them throughout the entire thing. Like I can pinpoint that as a really fun experience, and I can also pinpoint like a really satisfying game which didn't have such like a quote unquote fun thing that happened, but where I'm like, that was a really well played game. Both of us were like, doing interesting things and that sort of thing. So I think like fun is creating the spontaneous moments and that being combined with a social element. I think that's like what wargaming does, isn't it? Like you're because a little bit like in role playing, I suppose, like D&D, because some of it is your input and some of it is luck. You go in a direction that you wouldn't if it was just one of either of those things.
Yeah. I think like that idea of tabletop gaming is kind of a tool to enable kind of like socializing in a way. I think I quite like that aspect of it. Like it's the same as, I don't know, playing a board game or something. Like I think for me, the kind of most consistent fun I've had is in the sort of more relaxed games that I've played with you or with other people. Whereas I think like there are times in tournaments where I've said I felt like kind of satisfied with the way I've played, but I wouldn't say there are any where I'm like overjoyed with the fun I'm having. And the other side of the tournament stuff is that the lows of the tournament play can be like really like very disappointing is maybe the way I'll phrase it. And I think especially with tournaments, because there is such a financial and time investment required, like you almost feel the need to get more out of it. And like if you do give up a whole weekend and you end up being matched with people who you don't quite vibe with, which is kind of random in a way, it can just feel quite miserable. And maybe that's why when people reach at the end, they're just like, yeah, I just want to go home, I've had enough.
Is it a sunk cost fallacy then, where people
Yeah.
gaslight themselves into saying that the tournament was enjoyable because they need it to be?
Yeah, 100%. I think everyone does that with everything. Like, I think human beings can convince themselves that almost anything is fun, and especially when it's around a theme or something that you really care about, like, you know, these big IPs, Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, whatever. You know, you can convince yourself that, oh, Aragorn did this really cool thing and that makes it thematic, whereas he actually spent the entire game running around and hiding behind a tree or something and then jumped out at the end and did something cool. Like, you can kind of hyperfixate on those small things that were thematic surrounded by an entire game that wasn't, and you can say, oh, that was a really cool game because this happened.
No, I see that. Moving on then to now linking this into balance. So I think this is the thing where it's going to kind of link into more of a conversation that now is going to feed into what's happening in Middle-Earth and that sort of thing in the new edition. Does a game need balance for it to be fun? Now, I would come at this and say, like, I think I said earlier, didn't I? Like, categorically not. And I can point at a game and say with 100% certainty, I enjoy playing Blood Bowl. Blood Bowl is by design not balanced. You don't need every team to be equally as good as each other to enjoy the process of playing it. That doesn't mean that Middle-Earth is designed in the same way as Blood Bowl. It definitely isn't. But it can be true that a game doesn't require balance for it to be fun. Now, is that true of Middle-Earth is a different question. So I think that's, where we want to start delving into that. Now, I would say that it's impossible to balance it. So I think you either have a choice, right? If you want to play what Games Workshop calls match play, you've either got to write lists for match play that are more balanced and then remove stuff which you're never going to be able to achieve balance in, or you have to change how Middle-Earth works as a game. Because with the current scenarios and the current way that you can build a list, it's 2 rock, paper, scissors. You can't really get it. You're never going to have a matchup where you always feel in every scenario that you have an equal to winning, regardless of what list you take. It's just not doable. Do you need that to have fun, though?
I mean, this will vary so much person to person, and I think a lot of the voices in the MESBG scene do tend to focus on the more competitive side of things. And I think for them, and this is no criticism, it's just how they play the game, like, in order to have fun and enjoy kind of maybe the challenge side of the game, which they enjoy, they do want the game to be more competitively balanced, so they feel like they can take a list that has a shot against lots of other lists. The problem is with the way list building's done now is that if you take Eagles, for instance, like that doesn't have lots of tools to deal with different things. Like it's kind of a one-trick pony in a lot of ways. So I think the new list building has just kind of really hampered that way of looking at the game. And yeah, I don't get it.
Why isn't it, do you think, that why don't more people approach it almost like a golf handicap? Like, I think I'm really good at the game. I'm going
Yeah,
to see if I can win a tournament with a less good list. I know that some
yeah,
people do that, but it's not as common as you'd think. I think there's a lot of people in Middle-Earth who collect lists because they really like the list. But I
yeah.
think the problem with Middle-Earth is there's also a lot of people who own 4, 5, 6 plus armies. And so actually, they are taking to a tournament not necessarily the army that they love, but the army that they think is good at that points level.
Yeah.
So
And
why
the
don't
other,
more people do that?
I don't know. I mean, the other problem with that is by taking a good list, you are saying that you're kind of taking this tournament seriously, and you kind of, you're setting yourself up to, you have a goal, even if you're not admitting it to yourself. Like, if you're taking a list because it's competitive, then you're hoping to do well and win lots of games. And if you don't do that, you'll be disappointed. Whereas I think what you're saying about, like, if you take a bad list and you even win a game, then that might be something you can be really pleased with. But maybe it's hard to let that go for people who are used to winning like all of their games.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that. And I guess that, again, it's like, is Middle-Earth a game that's designed around such a mechanic? Like, there isn't anything in the player base that really incentivizes you winning with worse lists. Because I think the interesting thing, because take Blood Bowl, for example. I realized that this channel is increasingly becoming us talking about games that we've
moved on to.
we've moved on to, and then going, why isn't Middle-Earth more like this? Anyway, I don't want Middle-Earth to be like Blood Bowl. I want them to be different. But in Blood Bowl, it's quite common for a tournament to give a prize to the best, what's called stunty team. And a stunty team is a joke team. They're designed to be bad. And it's like halflings, goblins, ogres, that sort of thing. And you can't realistically, unless the tournament is going to give you like a catch-up mechanic, or you are bringing a load of star players who aren't halflings. Like a purely halfling team would not win a tournament. You'd need really good star players and that sort of thing. But you can get a prize for being the best stunty coach. So some people will go to a tournament and say, I'm going to try and win the best stunty coach prize. I'm going to see if I can go positive with this terrible team. They're not trying to win the overall tournament, but they're trying to be the best. 40k, big 40k tournaments, it's quite common for you to have a kind of like best in faction kind of recognition. You were the best Space Marine player or whatever. So there's not really that like concept, is there? And that's possibly because Middle-Earth tournaments aren't big enough, or there isn't actually like a official ranking of stuff. Like nothing. The designers don't say to you, "Ruffians are a joke list," even though ruffians are shit and you would never win with them. Do you know what I mean? But like, it's interesting, isn't it, that other games do actually have ways to incentivize a different way of playing, and actually say to people, it got to be about playing the meta list. You can if you want, but you could do something else. Middle-Earth doesn't have that. I don't really know where to go from that point. just let it
Let it percolate. Let it sit
marinade. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, but
it's what tournaments represent in a game that is maybe key here, because are tournaments trying to be fun, or are they trying to be a kind of serious competitive experience for people? I'm not saying those are mutually exclusive, but what is the focus of an event? And I don't know. Like, I don't know what. Like, if the goal is for people to arrive and have fun, then it's really difficult to decide, because then basically you should only cater to what most people deem fun, and maybe there is just enough people in the MSBG scene who winning lots of games is what is fun, and it's not actually about the maybe less calculable aspects of having fun, which might be taking a less serious list and not doing quite as well and chilling out a bit. I don't know.
Do you know what I think is really interesting linking onto that? To just go off on a slight tangent. In a recent article the Games Workshop published about Warhammer Horus Heresy game, they specifically said Horus Heresy is a narrative game. Yeah. Tournaments that we run and the way that we're intending you to play this game are not bring the most competitive list and exploit the rules. We're expecting people to bring lists which are thematic. And as a result, they said legacy PDF units will be legal in Games Workshop official events. Something which you don't have for their other games, even Middle-Earth. Now, I look at that and I say, Middle-Earth should be that. Middle-Earth should be a narrative game where they say, we're not trying to beat the shit out of each other with the most competitive list. And it's interesting because I think the designers kind of acknowledged that. The designers have said in this edition, you're not allowed to do all of your nonsense alliance anymore. You can't just bring Gwai here into every good list. You can't ally the Witch King and Saladin. But then they've not acknowledged this kind of level of no, actually, game. And they've actually removed all the narrative elements. Like, the main rulebook has 2 pages that acknowledge it exists. There's no narrative scenarios anymore. They've been relegated to this kind of online PDF shadow of what they were in last edition. Why is it then? Is it because Games Workshop perceived that the people who buy this product are people who want a competitive experience, and they therefore think that that's what the player base are after?
Yeah. And I think also we nearly made a video about this, but what's kind of been removed from this edition is the self-expression. I think it was a comment or something in one of the videos we made that's mentioned it. I think it's a really good point.
Yeah, someone did comment this, yeah.
Now that every list is thematic, it's harder for the people who are trying to chill out and play a more wacky list to kind of feel like they're doing something unique and cool. So
yeah,
if everything is now in inverted commas thematic, even though I don't agree with that, it makes it. I mean, we've talked about this before, and I'm sure we'll talk about it in the future. But I probably used to build on average, I'd say 4 or 5 MESBG lists a week. I now have not done what I can't remember the last time I built an MESBG list. And it I don't know. It's like my favorite list that I ran in the previous version of MESBG was Thorin's Company and Eagles, which wasn't competitive, but it felt like, and after a lot of trial and error, it felt like a list that I really enjoyed playing and that I'd kind of discovered. And I really kind of valued that. I think that was kind of important to me. And there were actually some tournaments where I did pretty well with it. I think I went 3-0 at one event, which was completely fluky, but in other events I did terribly. But I wasn't really as bothered because it was kind of something that I'd come up with myself. So not having that opportunity for the people who otherwise might have taken a more chilled out and thematic list might just mean that maybe they do tend towards the kind of more, try-hardy meta lists.
And I mean, similar things, I stopped playing Kill Team when it's 2 editions ago now. They changed it so you really customize your list, and I was just I'm just not interested in it. I don't want to play a list someone else has built for me. It's not a card game with pre-built decks, right? You want to build your own deck. You want it to be a sort of like representation of how you play the game. You don't like playing River because you don't think it's a good experience, so you don't touch that list. You want your list to be a representation of how you want to play. Yeah. And like that's been removed, which is like super pretentious, isn't it? But like it is true.
Yeah.
But other games fill that void. Yeah. Like I go and build army lists for the old world because the old world is like unnecessarily complex. But actually that's like quite nice. Like, I know that playing the old world as a game is not something I'm going to be able to do regularly because it takes too long. But it's like, it's an aspirational goal. And you can build very, very tailored, completely unique lists to the point where no one's really going to have the same list unless you're net decking.
Yeah.
Middle-Earth just doesn't have that. It's like, if I want to play Earmir's Riders at 550, I've bought Earmir and Gandalf. Well, I suppose I can fit 11 Riders of Rohan in with a banner. Yeah, I'll take that. Like, no one is going to have a different list to me unless they've taken a captain.
Yeah,
like wow.
Which is about to say it doesn't really matter, does it?
Yeah, the variation. You've taken a captain and less Riders, and I've taken more Riders. Oh, you've taken 2 throwing spears, and I've taken 3. Like, there's no variation. Now, Legendary Legions used to be an expression because it used to be I have chosen Legendary Legion over doing something else. I want to represent this specific moment because I have chosen to. And then I get a little bonus rule to reward me for that. But once you make it so everything has to be that style, it's like now you have a choice. Now people aren't choosing a Legendary Legion, they have to take it.
Yeah.
But again, it's like, it's fine. The list building isn't a problem. Some people like it. It's just they've removed an edition where you had both options. And now the people who liked the customization don't have anything. It's like, but is this just a move that Games Workshop just want to funnel their games to only target one audience? Like, do they want me to go and play a different game? Like this isn't the product for you. We want you to buy this product, and it's like 40k, like different ways of playing. They like just sell you different rule books now. It's like, here are the narrative rules in a different book to the other rules. Buy the book you want.
Yeah, it's tricky, right? Because assuming GW have a relatively sensible business strategy going on, they will have designed this edition within reason to be the most effective way of extracting money from the MESBG player base. Now, for people like us, it's just resulted in us kind of tapping out and saying, we'll circle back in a couple of years next edition and see. We might play a couple of casual pickup games or something, but not for us. But is this for people who are already in the ecosystem? Maybe, like, is this just an incentive to pick up another couple of armies? Like, is this because I think the problem for any tabletop game that's been running for an extended period of time is how you get people who already have loads and loads of stuff to buy more stuff.
Well, I think the other thing is they need new players. The new players are the ones who'll buy more.
Yeah.
For a game like Warhammer, you just invent new shit to sell them. A game like Lord of the Rings, how many people are there left in the world that still want it as a product? Now, you've got some like nostalgia bait. I think that the reason why Middle-Earth has done, when we did that poll, which said like, when did you start Middle-Earth? There was like a really clear uptick in 2018. I think there were a couple reasons for that. One, pandemic. I think a lot of people returned to wargaming because they were bored and then stayed. 2, It was not exactly. It's about 20 years after Lord of the Rings came out. So I think you're hitting now the point where you're getting that nostalgia boost. The people that saw Lord of the Rings in a formative time who didn't pick it up the first time round, they are now in their 30s with a bit of more disposable income, and they pick it up now if they're getting into wargaming. And I think that is like a boost there. But the issue is, right, is also I think like price point. I think Middle-Earth was really well priced at a time where other Games Workshop products felt expensive. And I think weirdly, other Games Workshop products now, because of inflation, don't feel so bad. This is something that I've noticed because other companies have had to up their prices and wargaming in general has just become more expensive. I now look at a box of Legion and I say, actually, Games Workshop prices, they're not that dissimilar.
Yeah.
Like, I don't actually now feel like Warhammer 40k is astronomically expensive in comparison to other things. I think it is still a bit. Like, don't get me wrong. I think Games Workshop,
which is kind of wild, like when you
high.
think about it, because it's
But
not that 40k hasn't got cheaper. It's just everything else has become more unreasonable.
Yeah. But that's inflation, isn't it?
Yeah.
And Middle-Earth felt like a really good. I think it still is a cheap game, but it's not actually necessarily as cheap. Like, there are lists which are really good value, but the deeper you go into MESBG, the more you realize that actually most of the lists are not that cheap. Not actually such a cheap price point. I was actually looking it up for a different video idea that I was working on. I think I messaged you about it. If you just go and watch War of the Rohirrim, and you go and buy the starter box, which isn't badly priced,
It's fair.
Getting 24 warriors, you're getting 2 heroes for each side, 24 warriors for each side, sorry. You're getting terrain, book, fine. It's more expensive than some of the other Games Workshop ones, but it's a more niche product, so you have that bit of extra. Say you are buying the Rohan side, and you go, Rohan, I want to play a mounted Rohan list. You've got the 2 heroes, and you look and you say, okay, the only other hero that's been released so far is Hera. Plastic, nice model. If you like the film, you buy it. And then you go, I want mounted Rohan list. It's Rohan, of course you do. And you think to yourself, like, what are the most, what's the highest points people play at? About 800?
Yeah.
More or less. Some people go to 1,000, but it becomes bloated, doesn't it? 800 is about the highest. So you go, right, I'm going to build a list which is 800 points, and it means I can play at any points level I want. If you are going to go in and buy that, you end up spending over £200.
Yeah.
Because the cost of those 3 plastic heroes, the 24 warriors that you got in the box set, and then you have to go and buy about 6 boxes of Riders of Rohan. Yeah. And I'm not including like a banner. Like, I'm assuming that people are going to convert one rather than buying that metal banner. Yeah. Over £200. It's not that cheap. And that's like the product that they're pushing. It's like the main one. Now, obviously, you could go and buy Thorin's Company and play the game for £30, or I think it's 37 now, isn't it? But 30 with a discount. Of course you could. But if you want to play with a specific army, it's not actually that cheap. Yeah. I can't remember why we're now talking about this, but anyway. Yeah. Waffling on. I'm sure that the tangent did come from relevant. Like, yeah, it's a big ask, isn't it? Should we cycle back around to what this video is meant to be about?
Yeah. Can I talk about Hearthstone at some point?
Yeah, go for it. Why not now? It seems as good a point as any.
So, in Hearthstone, there's a class called Priest. This isn't a comment on religion. And essentially, there was a period of like a year where Priest was essentially unplayable. And everyone was like, what are you doing? Like, you can see the win rates are terrible. And then they released a card, I think it was called Purify or something, which was literally one of the worst cards like ever seen in Hearthstone. And people started memeing on it. and they had an interview with the devs, and basically what came out of that conversation was that the reason they were making Priest so bad is that people hated playing against it. So what they were intentionally doing was basically making the class so bad that it appeared less on the ladder, so people enjoyed playing the game more. And I think it was a really interesting point, because it was like they were deliberately making a game less, inverted commas, balanced in order to make it more fun.
So I suppose the obvious counter is, should they have gone in and changed the way that the Priest play style works so that people did enjoy playing against it?
Which is sort of how it subsequently evolved over time. But
I guess,
while they were developing that, I think it was a really interesting decision to effectively like kill the class in order for the rest of the game to be more fun.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting that for me, Guai here in Eagles, I think that ability, which to me seems like dreadful design, basically, like I think taking away the ability for models in an area to move just feels so uninteractive and terrible. Like, would just completely nuking Eagles make the game more fun overall?
Probably. Well, I guess it depends how prevalent they are. This, I think, is. We were talking about this earlier, not in recording, but this is, I think, where our link to. I think that some people are now going to be thinking, well, Eagles aren't as good now. Match play guides come out, and I was sort of saying earlier, it's really annoying, isn't it? How Middle-Earth people almost like assume in all conversations that like the balance of the game and the meta of the game revolves around playing like a 6-game tournament. Oh, it's okay for Eagles to auto win 2 games because they'll lose the other 4. It's like, well, hang on a minute. So the game is balanced because this team or this faction instantly wins 20% of games and instantly loses 80%. Like, okay, it means that they don't appear too high in tournaments, but that's a shit game. You're going into 20% of matches going, if I play correctly, I'll win. There's no real challenge. And yes, I know that you have to play correctly. You could miss. The dice could roll poorly. Okay, fine. But you're not really being presented with a decision to make, right? Like your opponent and you, that idea of that like satisfying play experience. It's not, is it? Because the eagle flies into the middle, picks up the thing, and you win.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay. But then another game, it's like the Eagles can't sit on all the objectives, so you lose. It's like, oh, okay. And it's like, well, it's fine then, because at a tournament, the Eagles won't win every match. It's like, okay, what if you're not at a tournament? What if you've gone to a club night and your opponent brings Eagles, which they're entitled to do? They've painted them. They love their Eagles. Not their fault the Eagles are really good in that scenario. They probably bought them last edition. I know that a lot of people bought them this edition, and then you roll a dice and you play that scenario, and it's like, well, okay, might as well just pack up and go home then.
Yeah.
Or you end up doing the veto scenario, and the problem with veto is you always just end up playing games, don't you? Because the eagle player never gets to play the game mode which they're good at, and you just always play the same few scenarios which you know will give you a good experience. Are the scenarios problematic? And I think yes and no. And I think I suppose you could look at it 2 ways. You could say, if you know the scenarios are going to be designed like they are in MESBG, you need to think carefully about how you're going to build your army list. Because I was saying to you earlier, I was just like, the way you fix Eagles, just don't have them as their own faction.
Yeah. Force them to ally.
They're in Men of the West. They're in Thorin's company. They're in Battle of 5 Armies. Yeah. Those are the 3 times that they fight in the films. Those are the 3 times they fight in the books, to be fair. At least the main books that the game's based off of, not including the Silmarillion. why are they their own faction? They're their own faction because Games Workshop knows that people want them to be.
Yeah.
But then if the same people are also saying, oh, it's too much of a skew list, you shouldn't have all monsters, okay, change it then. Or they need to have a really obvious downside like Ents.
Yeah.
Which is slow.
Yeah.
Eagles, strong, good fight, fast, good at everything. The only thing they don't have is numbers, which doesn't matter at some points levels because they're just too overwhelmingly strong. The only thing which holds them back is the scenario design. So yeah. But then that comes back, doesn't it, to the balance and the enjoyable game design. Like, it needs to be more about the enjoyable play experience. I think that people were probably happy to play against Eagles last edition. People
but were they happy because they thought they were going to win?
Well, yeah.
Like,
or were they happy because back then playing an monster army was something different?
Yeah. Yeah, it's whether you take the cynical or the non-cynical point of view, right? Like, what I will say, as someone who's been looking on with an interested eye interest is an exaggeration, a moderately interested eye from the outside of this edition of
professional interest, because you talk about it in this podcast.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who suddenly became real fucking passionate about Eagles overnight. Weird that. Because as somebody who ran what was effectively a dumpster fire of a list for 6 months or so, it was interesting that, when they became good, suddenly all these people came out of the woodwork and suddenly gave a shit about Eagles being thematic, even though they were just as thematic as they were before. They just didn't have the bullshit rule before.
I think it is interesting when you get the comments like a faction becomes good and then someone's like, time to crack out my models. And it's like, what? So they sit in a box until they're meta,
until they're called.
But then that probably is fun, isn't it, for them to win? And that's like the thing that obviously we come back to. For them, fun is winning, so they always choose the meta list. This then links us to a related point. We started by saying, like, does the game have to be balanced? And I was sort of saying, like, loosely, no. Why is it that players who are interested in developing and engaging meta, why do they also want every list to be balanced? As long as the meta allows for a diverse range of different factions, does it matter that the Shire isn't one of them? I don't think anyone's screaming for the Shire to be made better, right? Now, you might say, well, it's unfair on a player because they collected Harrod and now they're shit. It's like, okay, if you are the sort of person who cares about winning, probably aren't just a mono-faction person. You probably own lots of factions because you change with the meta. So actually, what they want is a meta which doesn't get stale. They don't want balance. They want a shifting and developing meta. Games Workshop's really good at doing that.
Yeah.
Because what they can do is they can change the meta. They can't balance their games, but they can change the meta. So that's really what we're talking about, isn't it? We're not really talking about people wanting balance. That's unachievable. We're talking about people want a meta which shifts. Now, I'm of the opinion that what these games really need is not Games Workshop coming in with nerf bats. It's making sure that people have the tools so that they actually can problem solve and the meta forms naturally. That's what should be happening. It should be, if Eagles are really good, then a list which counters Eagles starts to become meta, and then a list which counters that becomes meta, and then you should have anti-meta. Now, that does happen to a certain extent, but it doesn't happen, in my opinion, enough. Like, either one list is too oppressive, or the game gets changed too often, so it never actually gets naturally develop.
I think also with the new list building, it's harder to have kind of nuance.
Yeah.
I think like it's now quite stark. And I think it is a really interesting decision from GW's perspective, if they are trying to make MESBG more competitive, that they've taken so much of that onus onto themselves. with the restrictions on the lists, because I mean, for the direction they've taken, I think the end result actually isn't that bad. Like, I think it could have been significantly worse with how like prescriptive these lists now are. If you think about like the sort of micro list building decisions you could make in previous editions, and with the alliances that opened up so many options, there was so much more kind of in the player's hands.
It's funny though, isn't it? Because you have all those options, but no one really did them that much. Everyone just brought the same alliances, didn't they?
But anyway, within those alliances, you had options. I guess.
Okay.
My point. Yeah, like, I mean, you saw, I don't know, Boromir in Gondor, for instance, but you had the choice between your back rank, right? You could take the Citadel Guard, the Fountain Guard, or the Rangers, and that was kind of a decision of like that you could make based on like the meta, and then
you can still do that in the bigger lists.
Yeah,
just to a lesser extent. You're much more limited in your hero.
Yeah,
some of the bigger lists can still give you a little bit of warrior choice. I guess the problem is you're kind of talking about a Gondor list where you have 6 different infantry, and then maybe you would ally in some fiefdoms or Warriors of the Dead or Johan.
Yeah.
Now you're looking at like 3 different sorts of infantry, and do people just go, well, that one's the best one? I like that one.
Yeah.
There is that danger then, isn't there?
Yeah. But I think also at this point, like, for the new list building, I don't know if it's made it the game better as a competitive experience. My gut feeling is probably no, but maybe I'm wrong on that. I don't think it's made it better as a thematic experience, because now that every list is thematic, I don't really see the purpose. So I don't really understand. Tell us in the comments below, like, who is this list building better for? Like, who has won as a result of this change?
Well, I think so. I would say I think it is legitimately better for because I think for new players, you just say, you go buy this hero, you go buy this box. Done. It's not good for them in the sense that once they have played that list, that it's more difficult now to build up a collection of related models. But then also, Games Workshop probably don't care, because they probably want a player to go, I've made this list, I'm now going to go and do something completely different. Rather than, I've made this list, I'm now going to buy an extra hero so I can play it slightly differently.
I'm going to sprinkle in a few bits rather than having to build an entire new list. Yeah.
But I do think legitimately that for a new it's better. I think you just say, here's your rule page. Don't worry about anything else. And there's less sort of analysis. There's less like, what warrior should I take? How does alliances work? And like all of that kind of stuff. I think it is better.
I can see removing the alliance matrix for newer players being really helpful, because firstly, it was quite confusing visually sometimes, but also if you are more interested in trying to do well in a game, if you just have someone tell you, like, this is a pretty reasonable army list, just build the stuff here, you don't need to worry about, as you're saying, anything else, just off you go.
Yeah.
And then actually, if they're looking to make money, if the new player experience is improved, there you go. Maybe that's the answer.
Yeah. I think it's good for the players who think only play something which is purely represented in the world as well. The people who didn't like, you're just taking that because it's obviously strong. And they were kind of like, oh, I don't like that. I always cycle back to this point. It's something that I've talked about someone in the comments with. I always do find it funny though that those same players don't have a problem with like good versus good or evil versus evil.
Yeah.
It's like they want everything to be thematic, but they don't mind their Riders of Aemir fighting against the Black Gates, which is just like a random matchup. They're like, I only care about my army being thematic. It's like, right, okay. Like, well, yes, but a generic Rohan army fighting a generic Mordor is thematic, and you can better. Anyway, there's a video about that I made. Go watch if they care, which they probably don't.
Yeah.
But like that sort of player probably prefers. I don't think the ultra competitive people prefer it, but I think they'll deal with it because it's a different way of doing things, and so it is new.
Yeah.
I don't think the people who are playing the game for pickup matches care massively. I think if they're new, then fine. They don't know any different, and it's easy to get into. I think if they love the game and they want to keep playing with people who are using this rule set, then they'll do it. I don't think though that it's interesting, isn't it? Everyone always says, "Oh, better." The core rules, I like the core rules. Army building, take or leave it.
Yeah,
like not that many people are really, really like strongly saying like the new. There's people out there, don't get me wrong, but most people say core rules better, army rules, army building. Nah, it's either don't mind it or it's worse. No one's really pushing to make a case for it. So yeah, it's that very specific sort of person who thinks the game should be played in exactly that one way that likes it, and new players. There you go. But going back to something that Mayor said a few videos ago when he went to that tournament, admittedly before match play guide, but he was just like, it's like rock, paper, scissors. Your list now just is really strong against some, really weak against others, and you can't really do much with most lists to prevent that anymore. So there you go. That's the game. Yeah.
I suppose actually, if you're just playing pickup games, there's no reason you can't just put a random hero into a list if you want to.
Sure.
Like that's still functional as an ability.
I think you'd be amazed how many people are unwilling to veer off Games Workshop's official rules, though. I think a lot of people just assume that doing that would, quote unquote, break the game. No, I don't want to play against something that's broken. It's like, okay. It is adding arrogance broken? Probably not, actually. But that's the attitude. It's like 40k players. A lot of places they just say no legacy because they don't update the points on legacy, so we don't think it's fair. It's like, oh, okay. But it's like the assumption is that people want to take legacy so that they can exploit it.
Yeah.
It's like, well, is that really what's happening? Well, maybe.
It's quite a depressing outlook on the world, isn't it?
Yeah. But that's I think I don't think a lot of people veer off. And if they are willing to veer off, then they probably haven't bought the new edition.
Yeah.
They probably just don't care. They're doing their own thing, not giving Games Workshop money.
Yeah.
So, yeah. There you go. Do we have a point that we've come to, or
not really?
No. You're welcome, everyone. The Hobby Breakfast Show not coming to a point since 2022.
What do we think? What do we think? The game doesn't have to be balanced to be fun. Certain lists. We haven't actually mentioned negative play experience at all, really.
Let's talk about negative play experience. We should probably talk about that, given that we've been warned about it.
As I said at the beginning, I think negative play experience is when things are not interactive and you feel like you don't have control over what's happening in the game. I think that is far more frustrating to me than winning and losing ever was. And I think if you are putting abilities in the game that are designed to not let one player do things, or just let one player kind of control how the interactions in the game go, it's always going to end up feeling a bit negative. And I know at the top competitive level, there's nuances and strategy that you can play around and stuff. But on like a very basic level, like watching, the thing I always found frustrating was losing a move off. And I know you're meant to plan around it and have counter strategies and all these things, but just watching the other person make all the decisions and you not having control over that bit in that moment is just, I always found so aggravating and so frustrating. And especially when those kind of things can decide a game, I just don't think it's like a healthy thing to like, because there are probably other things you could have done in the game to win and lose, but you end up hyper fixating on that one thing and that one dice roll, and you blame everything on that. And that was always just something I found really frustrating. And when that is, I'm going to talk about Eagles again, but like when that is a baked in ability, or like, you know, Saruman's wind ability thing where all the models only move half or something, like, I think I just don't like things like that in a game for me.
I think it's interesting what you're saying though, because I can think of multiple occasions Mayor has said a game has been like really good because it came down to one roll, that it was like so close that only one dice roll decided. So I could see why some people would look at it in the opposite way. I think some not being able to move your model, that doesn't feel great. Middle-Earth inherently is just sort of built around that though, really.
Yeah.
Like we say that you give Gwai his scream as if that's like unusual, but in reality in the game, whoever wins within once you're within combat range, the person who wins priority probably has tied all your models up.
Yeah.
So you could be not moving models or not making meaningful moves quite a lot of the time.
Yeah.
When I think of negative play experience in the middle of games where the scenario design has meant that me just sit at 24-inch range trying to shoot each other, or on one particularly dreadful experience where my hobbits with their 18-inch bows were facing bows and could never physically get close enough. And I was like, it was a tournament. I think it was only an hour and a half game. And I was like, by the time I get to him, he was skilled enough that I won't be able to do anything. I can't ever shoot him. So what we ended up doing is trying to hide behind a building aside from me. And that's a really fucking boring gameplay experience.
Yeah.
Or I think of games like playing the Bjornings when they were really strong, and you're just like, what the fuck do I do here? And you would like expend like might and like be singing your like strongest characters in for a slither of a shot at maybe killing one bear, and then you didn't kill them, and it was like, And again, like I get the if competitiveness, that's maybe better chance, but I wasn't, and it just felt miserable. Assault on Helm's Deep, really fucking boring to play. Sorry, Mayor. Just like being shot by like blister bolts across the boards, like.
Yeah. The other thing that always got me about Assault on Helm's Deep was like the 12 crossbows that were also waiting for you as well. I was like, oh my god, like, holy shit. Yeah.
But like those are like for me the feel bads. But like, what do all those have in common? Is it bad scenario design? Game.
I think
army can just sit on the other side.
Yeah, I think any scenarios where you aren't forced to interact with your opponent they might be quite interesting. Like they might have cool nuances to them and stuff, but it's a really tricky design space to enter. Yeah. And like if people are playing competitively, they should absolutely always try and min-max the situation in their favor, which means that sometimes, yes, it is just the case that they'll sit back and shoot you and shoot you and shoot you and shoot you. And I mean, that's fine, because there should be some armies that are more shooting, like, I don't know, the Rangers of Mirkwood or Aphelion or whatever. Like, I think it's fine for those lists to exist, but maybe you just need a critical mass of scenarios, a bit like maybe with Eagles, that perhaps they aren't so strong at that forces them to come and interact with your opponent's list. But it's tricky.
I used to be a really big fan of shooting in Middle-Earth. I'm increasingly not. I think the problem is it's a game which is designed around the premise that shooting will be weak.
Yeah.
Because the mechanics were designed in a time bows were strength 2. You could only have a third of your models with them, and most models shooting were shit unless you're an elf, and then you don't have many bows because elves are expensive. But now, strength 3 bows, really accessible. You can get strength 4 bows. You can get siege engines. There are mechanics and ways to get more bow counts. And it becomes like just such a drag. And like it's very clear the rules weren't intending. They weren't intending for you to play at such big.
The rules weren't intending for any of this, right? Like this is MESBG as a rule set has become so far removed from where it started.
Yeah.
And I think it's actually held up really well, considering how much the game has evolved and what the demands on the rules now are. The fact that it's still like pretty playable and clearly a lot of people still enjoy it is actually really impressive.
Well, it's a really solid rule set. It's just it creates some really boring gameplay if you play it in a certain way.
Yeah,
because I know. Although a lot of people say Middle-Earth is great, there are also people who are really put off by like how slow it is to like chop through a line, and people just like there are too many turns of combat. It's like you slam your line together, and there's not that level of abstraction to say, you know what, we probably only need like 2 turns of combat to decide which force is going to win. But instead, it drags it through as your shield wall crumbles. Now, sure, maybe that's more realistic, and that feels more like, you actually break through the line at a certain point and then you exploit it. Okay, but I could argue that I'm wargaming for an abstraction. I don't need every model. Like this was the problem with every weapon having a specific rule, right? That we used to complain about. It was like, I don't need it to be that specific. It can be abstract enough that my sword doesn't need to have a different rule from the axe. And they've actually removed that because I think that they probably came to the same conclusion, right? It just slowed the game down. But like things just die too slowly a lot of the time, and the only thing it doesn't hero, and but some people are turned off by it. They don't want to slam 2 shield walls into each other, and that's why they play Eagles. But yeah. So yeah, negative play experience. But yeah, but I think all of this is to really say that Middle-Earth is still a good game.
Yeah,
you can still have really positive moments.
Yeah,
but I do personally think it's really interesting. Most of my positive moments, they're not at tournaments. They're playing even narrative games or casual games. But that doesn't get the emphasis, does it?
No, because those people are less likely to spend money and more likely to house rule stuff, so they don't cause as much of a fuss. And the only points where I think the MESBG rule set does start to kind of crack, essentially, is when you get to these more like nuanced things that really matter in a competitive game. And again, like it's part of the competitive game. You should be trying to min max those things. I get that, but like it is just not what the rule set was designed for.
Yeah.
And we've spoken about this before. It's the kind of thing where if you were playing in a more casual setting, you would just house rule it and say this happens, whatever. Whereas in the actual game, you need a TO to come over and make a call, and sometimes it's not clear and things like that. And I think it's okay that, you know, of course the rule set's going to need to be updated over time, but it does reach a point where I just don't know how much more you should really ask from this rule set before you kind of have to just rethink the kind of philosophies of the game.
Yeah, I think the rule set is a solid. I think that you can always get a good game. I think you've probably got to rethink how you do army list building and scenarios if you want to continue this rule set. Like, if you want the game to be a competitive game, I think the scenarios need to be and if you want the game to be more what it was originally designed for, keep the scenarios, but then you've got to reorientate the expectations of players for what the game is. If you want a game to be the only like victory condition that really matters is to kill your opponent's leader, and then two players say, well, it's against my interest to have a move in 20 inches of you because you'd shoot me and I'd shoot you, so let's not do it. Like, you've either got to reorientate those expectations, we're going to try and do it anyway, or you've got to say, if we're expecting players to play in that, then we can't have that scenario.
Yeah,
like those are the two things that you've got to work with. And if you're gonna say, well, people will always play tournaments for whatever game, yeah, you're right. Doesn't mean you have to cater to them. I'm not against catering to tournament players, but is Middle-Earth the right game for it? And if those players are willing to go and do tournaments regardless, do you need to cater to them? But well,
because it's what's happening with narrative play, right? Is that it's just become this like afterthought essentially, and
yeah,
that's what MESBG was first and foremost. Really, it was designed as this like quite narrative-based skirmish game, and the fact that
it was
it's now
designed to redo the moments in the films.
Yeah, and
yeah,
I don't know. Maybe I mean, perhaps I don't really want. The thing is, I don't want a book necessarily of like narrative stuff. I can't really imagine what product you sell. I think I mentioned this last time. Like to a narrative audience, like what do you give them? And the solution they've come up with is the free PDFs, which are just reprints of some old scenarios. But
the free PDFs are fine as long as they either give us all the old scenarios. Like if you're not going to bother changing, then give us them all. Or you actually say, if we're only going to give you some, we actually do significant work to make it worthwhile. I agree, though. I don't know what product as a narrative gamer you buy. Like battle companies, they probably will resell that some, and there will be an audience for it.
To be fair, if they took like, if they gave you an ability to kind of customize how you did battle companies, like maybe they had some more in-depth stuff and some more casual stuff, that could be quite an interesting product, because you probably have, you know, the people who do battle companies for like a really long campaign that goes for ages. But then there might also be the people who just want, a bit like we do with Space Weirdos or something, right? We just want something that is good for a couple of pickup games. Like that, like I might buy that product. Like, I'm not saying I would, but I'd consider it.
Well, so they turn battle companies into not just a experience-based sort of like build a warband. They also make it a kind of more chill. Yeah.
So they have like different depths you could choose, basically. And I I don't know. Like, I think that could be that's an interesting concept. I think it'd be quite hard to execute, but just something that caters to that audience. Because there must be loads of people out there who are doing like. I assume there are loads of Battle Companies players out there, and that could be a cool product.
I think the boring reality is they're just gonna either just re-release everything from last edition but slightly changed. Although it's difficult to imagine them like War and Rohan now, because all of the unique legendary legions are now just regular lists. So
Yeah,
what do they add?
Yeah, I don't know what extra content. I mean, you've said we're obviously going to get War of the Rohirrim stuff. Like that's an obvious angle.
And like,
I mean,
the book could be full of narrative scenarios, but then, well, I already own the old book, and I'm not going to pay for you to introduce the intelligence stat to my scenario. Yeah, it's a tricky one, because I guess that you could then make the argument of like, well, narrative run its course, everyone owns all the products they need for it, so they're not going to make any money, and it's like, well, okay, but then you're basically just acknowledging that no new player ever is allowed to play this now. It's like as a new player joining Middle-Earth 2024, as far as you're aware, there is no narrative way of playing all of the moments in the films, other than building 2 match playlists that you see on screen and slamming them together.
Yeah. And also, like, I'm really interested to hear, like, as a new player, where do you feel funneled towards now? Like, do you feel funneled towards kind of just flicking through someone's book that you borrowed and you're like, oh, that looks cool, I'll collect that? Or do you ask people, what's a sort of good list? Or, I'm trying to imagine, like, if I was new to the game, what direction I would feel kind of pushed towards.
Comp.
Yeah, probably.
Tournaments.
Probably. Because also that's where you're most likely to play against maybe a decent variety of lists. And
But there's also, if you have interest in playing Middle-Earth in the UK, you're immediately going to be told to join the GBHL.
Yeah. And then go to an event that's vaguely near you and see how it goes. Yeah.
And that's it, isn't it? There's not, like, some clubs have a community. Like, I know around here, one of the clubs actually has like a decent, like, 8 or so people who pretty regularly play. But like, how many clubs in the UK have? I imagine there's people who are willing to play Middle-Earth, but not week in, week out. Yeah, there we go. Well, conclusions then. Negative play experience, bad. Middle-Earth has some inherent features which, in our opinion, create that, but also, as a game, creates some really positive play experiences. Balance doesn't exist.
I'm not sure I agree on that one. I think balance as a concept.
No,
balance as a concept exists. The ability to attain balance is almost impossible. I will give you
balance as a platonic ideal is.
Yes. Yeah, it's not a tangible concept.
Yeah, okay. I'm willing to accept the theoretical existence of balance. Yeah. I'm just not willing to accept that a game can achieve it. Even chess, you're more likely to win if you're white. The racists in big chess.
Yeah.
It's true though, right? Like, isn't it like a 50?
Let me check. Win percentages.
I'm pretty sure I read somewhere that we're live fact checking my claims, and this is making great video. White
consistently wins slightly more often than black, usually achieving a winning percentage between 52 and 54%.
There you go, boom.
Yeah,
I knew I'd read that sometime. If you can't make chess 50, you're fucked with anything resembling a miniature game where you're using a fucking dice to decide what happens, honestly.
And a tape measure that can be bought from wherever you want,
God.
and have the little thing on the end that slides back for some of them and doesn't for others, and you can put as much paint as you want and make your bases slightly bigger and all this crap.
Don't get me started on the tape measure bollocks. Like,
I think you'll find you need the specific tape measure that is verified by. I won't say it.
I honestly think play a competitive game with a tape measure, it is the stupidest bit about it. That people think that you can genuinely do all of the minute measurements. It's like, no, you're going to make a mistake.
Yeah.
It's
whether intentional or no.
Like if you have a board with like squares, it's achievable.
Yeah.
It's the variance is just not going to.
Yeah. Yep. Indeed.
So there we go. Balance exists, but is not achievable.
Yeah. And I don't think balance has much, if any, impact on actually whether or not a game is fun.
Question answered.
I think a game can be horrifically imbalanced and still be fun. And I think a game can be nearly perfectly balanced and make you never want to play it again your entire life.
So there we go. We've answered the premise of the video. And you've sat through an hour and 20 minutes to get there. I don't even know if that's a controversial statement.
No. Well, I think it's people cling on to balance because it's a percentage and a number that you can assign to things. Whereas like negative play experience is quite subjective. And I think people like having these like definite yardsticks to cling to of like the win percentages are nearly equal, so the game's balanced, so we don't have as much to complain about. And if the win percentage is higher, then it's a problem. And like, actually, I think on an individual level in a game, whether or not you're playing a list that's favored against you, as long as you play it out in a way that is interactive and you and your opponent have roughly similar ideas of what you want from the game, you can still have a really positive experience. And I think that's just not something that, you know, you could put in a clickbaity thumbnail at the top of an article. So maybe we'd overlook it.
Yeah, the Hobby Breakfast Show is not famed for its good clickbait, though.
No,
we're pretty poor at making good clickbait, it has to be said.
We're pretty poor at making videos these days, to be honest. It's
that is also true.
We dropped our output.
That is also true. Yeah.
So let's have a quick look at the stats, see if we're losing subscribers.
Do you know something that I've just sort of thought that might be relevant, just to sort of loop back around to something we were talking about today?
Sure.
If you were to like say with like video games, what's the most fun experiences you have? I would like pretty much say always like it's a co-op game. It's not a versus game. A versus game might be fun to play, but it's not the games that I would associate with the best positive play experience. And like most of the time in like wargaming, you never really get an opportunity to experience that. And I do not acknowledge
doubles.
Fucking miserable, honestly.
Well, the problem is doubles isn't actually a cooperative experience. It's the two best people on playing each other while the other people watch, which like, because I don't know, it's
I can imagine it's like fun in like a narrative. If you
100%,
we're going to do it in like a narrative sense, and like you almost like an element of P between your armies, or if like the game like deliberately encourages you to be slightly antagonistic towards the person you're actually forced to like have to make meaningful decisions to make you work together. But yeah, ultimately you're just playing a single player game with two people rolling dice.
Yeah.
What were you googling about win rates?
I can't remember. I was
We got long shanks and see what the win rate variation is in current stats.
Sure.
Middle-Earth, just as the final piece to see where
the final nail in this coffin.
Whether the game is achieving a good win rate variation stats.
Only select Legion. Right. Middle-Earth strategy battle game. Statistics.
Might not be enough games. God, look. Eagles have had 301 games played with them. And then fucking Assault on Lothlorien has had.
When is this sample over? Because that feels ridiculous.
I know.
Is that only a year?
Yeah, we might need to change it because Longshanks sometimes only gives you like a sample of like the last month or some bullshit. Its date ranges from a year. Oh, okay, so that is the entire.
Yeah.
Maybe Longshanks are just dropping off because people are using tabletop wrong. So if we go by ones which have actually had games, Dragon of the North has had an 80% win rate based off 37 games.
Shire
with a 66% win rate. Holy moly! Do you remember that guy who was commenting really angry that Shire was like a joke? Like,
yeah.
Shall I just tag him in this video? Get wrecked. They're fucking elite.
That feels wrong.
Is this just because now you can bring warriors with them? They're actually really good because the heroes are better.
I don't know. I mean, I will say
Gandalf the Grey's all right now as well, isn't it? Gone up like 2 attacks and stuff.
I think we should only really be considering ones with like 100+ games, realistically.
Yeah. So Eagles with a 64%, right?
Yeah. Army of the White Hand, Men of the West. Yeah, I'm fucking stunned.
If we drop down to the faction with over 100 games, lowest is Thorin's Company, 103 games, 33% win rate. Oof.
Good lord.
That's
3 trolls. 3 trolls at 36.
A lot of people are hyping 3 trolls as well. 3 trolls really depends on what points level you're. Thorin's Company. That's pretty oof.
They need the ponies back.
Yeah. Iron Hills, 37%. That's not great. They're like a kind of proper quote unquote faction, aren't they? Isn't they play like a normal faction with infantry, cav, and big heroes. Fellowship, 36%. Legions of Mordor, 38%. Goblin Town, 38%. I wonder why Mare wasn't playing them. It's fine. Mare hasn't got this far into the video.
No one has.
No one has, yeah, true. Christ, so what? That's. You got 30% variance, basically, don't you?
Yeah.
It's pretty big.
Yeah.
Does that matter, though?
No.
Not for fun.
No.
I'm surprised that Atop the Walls has such a low.
Yeah, it's a very small sample size, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, not that small, 99.
Grief of Aemir, one person's played and lost all 4 games in that tournament, haven't they? That's what that is at the bottom. You'll be pleased to see how shit hosts the Dragon Emperor, won't you?
Yeah. The problem is, the list that will have low win rates won't necessarily be the worst list. They will be the lists that players who are less competitive are taking, I think.
Yeah. And there's so many lists now that are going to take forever for people to get enough games in with these. I mean, there's 81 lists, and then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, which haven't had enough. 14 plus 81, 95 lists. That is insane. 95 lists.
Please consider carefully before drawing conclusions.
Yeah. Jeez. Minas Morgul, which we said was very strong, 52% win rate. So there you go. That's the platonic ideal of a balanced list right there.
What are the 50% ones? Reclamation of
Reclamation of the Skiliath.
Range of Mirkwood. Rivendell.
Usurpers of Edoras. Riders of Aemir. There you go.
These
Riders
are
of Aemir.
Breaking of the Fellowship.
That's because they can bring the elves now, remember?
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. There you
Good.
go. Right, we'll call it there, I think. I think we said everything we wanted to say.
And more besides.
And more, yeah. A lot of fucking waffle. If you've enjoyed this, and God knows why, feel free to like or subscribe or not, because we don't really care, because we're not that interested in growing the channel. If you would like Mayor to reappear on the channel, you have to say Mayor 3 times whilst looking in a mirror, and he will be on the next video if you do that successfully. Yeah, you have to send us video evidence saying that. He's a lot like Tinkerbell. If you say that you believe in Mayor, he will appear. If you say you don't believe in him,
oh my god,
stop. Would you like to say bye, OT?
I would love to. Goodbye.
Goodbye.